what was the most disappointing watching this was just not even the fact that you got thoroughly manhandled. It was just the fact that there was a point in the game in the first half where it was 13-7. And I paid attention to like just the body language and the energy on the sideline when the camera was panned over to the Ravens sideline, to John Harbaugh, to the huddle. It felt like you were already dejected, that like this game was over, for like you were down 20, down 30 already in the first half. And I'm like, it's 13-7 in the first half. Like, it's not over yet. But the feeling that I got, if I'm being totally honest, is that the team looked lifeless. It looked like you weren't ready to play, or you are submitting to defeat because, again, it's Kansas City, it's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes. That's the part I didn't understand. Like, I'm trying my best to not be biased here because obviously I'm a Ravens fan, but I look at how the Ravens have played and it's like, you can't tell me that you're so far beneath Kansas City like you don't belong on the same field. I really don't believe that. Just watching what I've seen for the past couple of years. This was really the first time that Kansas City actually kicked the living dog crap out of you. Like, where you looked like you didn't belong because you acted like it. It's not because you don't have the talent or the skill set to do it. There's some teams in the NFL that have no business being in the game with the likes of Kansas City or Buffalo. The Baltimore Ravens are not one of those teams. That's just factual evidence. But to feel that type of energy and that type of vibe when it was 13-7, it's like, damn, like you either don't believe in yourself, or you just something gets spooked when you're around certain teams. And you just simply aren't going to win. You simply aren't going to beat those guys with that kind of mindset. And is that the players? Is that the coaching? Is that the voice in the locker room? And by voice, I mean John Harbaugh. I got to look at John Harbaugh with a raised eyebrow even more so than I have in the past couple of years, to the point where it's like I'm wondering if your voice in the locker room is running stale. If everything you're saying is falling on deaf ears all of a sudden. Those are the questions that I'm starting to ask. I'm going to say something that is probably going to sound ridiculous. I still don't think that the Ravens season is over. I don't feel that way. Now, it's obviously very hinging on Lamar Jackson's health, because as we know, Lamar Jackson exited this game with a hamstring injury. Depending on how serious it is, how much time he'll miss. I'm right now, if I had to guess, not a doctor, I'm guessing he might be out for at least the next 2 games. So you're looking at home against the Houston Texans and then home against the LA Rams before you go into the bye week. So the reason why I'm not panicking and saying that the season is over is because you got to look at this first 6 games for the Ravens. They played 5 playoff teams in those first 6 games. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Lions, Texans, and the Rams. It's 5 playoff teams right there in 6 games. But you also got a division win in game 2 against Cleveland. So you're 1-0 in the division. Your division games are on the back half of the schedule this year. Looking at the AFC North, I know the Pittsburgh Steelers won. They're 3-1 right now. Aaron Rodgers, this offense, they're getting it done. They're getting wins. Mike Tomlin, they're getting it done. So I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It never is with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It doesn't matter who's there. It's just how it is with the Ravens and Steelers. It's never going to be easy. Doesn't matter what the records are. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, who's coaching. It's always going to be tough. But the Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, now that there's no Joe Burrow, you're starting to wonder if Cincinnati is going to be an absolute free fall. Again, it's the AFC North. I'm not saying it's going to be simple, but you still think that the Ravens would have an easier time getting back into the season and still having a better chance to win their division versus a Kansas City where the Chargers jumped out to a 3-0, a 3-0, game, 3 games ahead in the division off the gate by beating Kansas City in Sao Paulo in week 1. They're 3-0 in their division. So Kansas City has a much higher road to climb in their division as opposed to the Ravens in the AFC North. So that's why I'm saying that in regards specifically to the division, I don't think the season is over for the Ravens just yet. Obviously, again, it depends on how Lamar Jackson's health is. We'll see what happens in the coming days, in the coming weeks. I would actually be very surprised if Lamar was available for next week. I think he will miss that next game for sure. We'll see what happens with the game after that. But yeah, a lot to be very disappointed about. Obviously, then now the injuries are starting to pile up the entire starting defense looks like it's going to be injured. Roquan Smith went out. Nate Wiggins went out. Looks like he might have a broken arm. I hope I'm wrong about that, but it looked pretty bad. Marlon Humphrey went out as well. You already had your starting defensive line basically, and all of them are injured. So it was tough to watch. You know, it's tough to see it, obviously, but just looking at it from the big picture, grand scheme of things going forward with the season, I'm not ready to say that the season's over. But you still wonder, even if the Ravens do pull it together, and I think they will. I got to be honest, it's hard to have confidence right now, because even if you say you win the AFC North, you get into the playoffs, might win a playoff game again, but you know who you're going to have to run into. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be Josh Allen. They're going to be there. I know they're going to be there. And all likelihood, you're going to have to beat one or both of them to do it. And the thing that's crazy is just, I go back to that week one where it was like the Ravens put up 40 points. Like they 40 points is enough to win the game. And they played very well, like on both sides of the ball. And it's just like ever since that collapse in that fourth quarter, losing that 15-point game, it's just like you see something's gone from this team as far as their energy and their psyche, like it's in their pride. Today to me was a shot at the Ravens' pride. And I didn't see any fight. We can talk about injuries. We can talk about all that. Every team is dealing with it. So I'm not going to use that excuse for the Ravens, because every team is dealing with it. I'm not going to use that excuse. To me, your pride was checked, and you didn't respond. And again, it was by the guy that does this to you every single time. You're 1-6 against this guy now. That guy, I mean Patrick Mahomes. It's hard to really put it into words, honestly, like what I saw. But the biggest thing for me was that this team seemed very lifeless and just dejected, even when it was a one-score game in the first half. Is it John Harbaugh? I'm starting to wonder. But even like, is it time for? And it's wild to say this after like how long he's been the coach. Is it time for a new voice in the locker room for the Baltimore Ravens? Because I'm starting to wonder if John Harbaugh's voice is running stale.